I'm just so excited to hear your bravery story is if you were talking to yourself at 15, like if you were to tell yourself stories that you think maybe could never be true, could never be plausible, but yet you are living proof that you did it is possible because there's someone laying on their living room floor right now, questioning or sitting in their kitchen by themselves crying, like that needs to hear this story to know, like, there is life out there, like there's something on the other side. So we are so excited to have you here today, and I won't give any insight into your story. I'll just let you just kind of start and tell us about yourself and your bravery.
Well, for me, I would say like talking to my 15-year-old self, the single most important message would be you can do it. You can build whatever you want to build. Because I grew up in a very lower middle class family, paycheck to paycheck. And it was just, I grew up like, yes, I want college. So yes, I went to college. But for me, it was always about get that safe, steady paycheck kind of thing. And the idea of being a writer or being a business owner, too uncertain.
So you went to
Absolutely.
college not because your heart was like, I want to do this. You felt pressure, familiar pressure or social pressure.
A little bit. I mean, truly, like I was the first person in my family to complete college, and I did. Like, I wanted to go. It's kind of like that natural kind of thing. Like your parents expect you to do better than they did. Just like I look at my kids, and the expectation is there, but like my son didn't want college, and that's okay. Like it's not like, oh, you have to do this. So the expectation was there, but for me, it was about I was going to need that for the things I wanted in life. Like I knew in high school I wanted to be a teacher, right? But part of why I wanted to be a teacher is that yes, it gets to do the things I enjoy. I get to read literature. I get to write. And I did enjoy tutoring, but that was one of those things where I could do those things and get the steady paycheck, right? So I have a lot of college. Like I went back. I have 2 master's degrees. So obviously I liked school enough for that. And all of that knowledge has really led me to where I am now. So like there's no regrets there. But as a younger person, absolutely I was closed off to like a lot of different ideas compared to where I am now, gray hair and all, right? It took a while to get here.
Well, we'll talk about going gray because that's something you'll see here. I've got like, I was getting shamed, like, okay, when we get back, it's time to color your hair. And I'm like, is it time to go gray? So we can unpack that too.
I stopped coloring a long time ago, like 10 years ago. No regrets.
That's bravery. That might be my bravery story. So you became a teacher, and then how did that go?
So I love being a teacher. I've middle school, high school, college. Like I've taught all different kinds of grade levels in weird kind of settings. Like I knew like special populations was my thing. Right. And I loved it. But then it was time to stay home with my kids. And then I started doing like curriculum development and editing. And so I found like all of these other things. Cause like I'm not the kind of person who would like just do one thing. Like I worked full time. I went to graduate school. You know, it's who I am. So staying home with my kids, yes, when they were super little, like babies, oh yes, that like you can't do anything else. Like your brain is mush, right? But by the time they get to be like 2, then it was like I started looking for other things. And so, I started doing these other things like curriculum development. And that's something that I love, like as a teacher. My favorite part of like the process of, lesson plans was like that curriculum, like what cool things can I work with? And so, staying home with my kids and cobbling together my income that way, like, freelancing and things like that. Again, it was back then, my husband was the breadwinner. It worked. We weren't reliant on my income. It was like extra money for the fun things for the kids, which was awesome. But I also knew even as they got older, like I didn't want to go back to the regular classroom. I love teaching. I still love teaching. I do teach 1 day a week, but I'd never want like the bureaucracy in the education system today. I don't have the patience for it, but I like the freedom that my life was, that I had, that I was always there to take my kids to school. I was always there when they got home or to pick them up. I was there to take them to all their activities, to help with homework. We ate dinner as a family every night. But the one job that I had that was online, the curriculum development, fell apart, and I fell apart, because I didn't have any money then. Things in my marriage weren't great, so I needed money. I became a writer. But for me, being a writer and getting published, it was like, I don't want to say a hobby, but I never in a million years thought that I would be able to do it as a business. I didn't want a business. I wanted the steady paycheck. And we're talking, this is, just 10 years ago. And
So
over
what
the course,
was your goal with writing at that time?
I started just to see if I could. I was, and I was like, I write romance. I was very late to the romance genre. I was an English teacher, total book snob. You know, it's like romance. No, I read literature. Um, but when you're home with a bunch of little kids who are yelling and screaming and climbing and pulling and, you know, all of that, like you want some escapism. And I started reading it. I was just devouring books. And I used to write when I was younger. Again, I've always loved to write, but it was never something I considered a path. So I started writing, and so it really was just like, could I do it?
It's like how little kids set up like obstacle courses in the backyard. Like, can I jump
Exactly.
over this? This was like your obstacle course. Like, can I do this?
Right. That was about it. And so here I am, you know, 12 years later, 25 books deep. Um,
Wait, 25 individual books. Not that you've sold
oh,
25 of one book.
no, 25, at least 25. I always have to count because I have them on the wall. It's at least 25. I don't know. People ask me that
Oh
question and
my
then I'm like, I don't
God.
know. I got to count titles. You would think I would know that number, but I do not.
Problems we all have. How many shoes do I have? I don't know. I need to count. How many books have I written? I don't
Right,
know.
exactly. It's somewhere around 25, 25, 27, somewhere in there. But I was not making enough money. I mean, it's traditionally published. And if you know anything about the publishing industry, it's never like it is in the movies where somebody just gives you a big fat check and they fly you to New York. No,
And you meet the
no,
man of your dreams and it's snowing.
right. Just does not happen. So I was not making enough money to survive. So I still have all of these other jobs cobbled together, which I still at this point do. But a few years ago, um, you know, I've tried lots of different things, like, you know, passive income and, you know, wanting to, because losing my job back in, God, what was it, 2016? The one thing that I learned from that was while I loved working from home and I wanted to continue to do that, I knew absolutely I 100% had to diversify my income. I was never going to be in that position again where I was going to be like, I lose a job and then all of a sudden I can't pay my bills. And so I've tried lots of different things, varying degrees of success, but not really finding anything that I was interested in. And I started following the woman who is now my business coach, Sadie Smiley. And I was in her free Facebook group, and she was always talking about the way to build, you know, a good income online. You have to have a blog. And, you know, the usual blocks were like, I got nothing to say. Who's going to listen to me? What do I know? So, but I followed it. Like literally, I was in this group for 2, 3 years, like listening to her and learning things. And then it was 2023. No, 2022. As I was listening to her, as I said, always saying, you have to start with a blog. And I'm like, I got nothing. At the same time, it was just like the perfect time in life. I kept seeing all of these women that I know, friends of friends, you know, people that I know directly, all in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all of a sudden getting diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And I'm looking around and like, obviously they've always had it. They just didn't know it.
It's not something you catch outside,
Right.
like if you're
No,
from a plant or something.
no, nothing you can catch has always been there. But that's one, then they have that recognition of, oh my gosh, that total, like, that explains why I am the way I am. And for the last, at this point, 7, 8 years, I've been an executive function coach. That's one of my part-time jobs that I've been doing, where I work with high school and college students to help them build those life skills, right? Planning, prioritizing, organizing, time management, all of those things. So even before getting paid to do this, I was doing it in my household. I have 3 neurodivergent kids. So, like, my life that I built with them, the structure, the routines, helping them figure out what their coping skills were going to be because their brains are wired differently. It was natural for me to go into coaching in that respect because I'm like, oh, I already do that. I can get paid to do this. Okay. Um,
I love that you mentioned coping skills because I want to jump in there so much. I think as parents, as mothers, we don't think of teaching our kids coping skills. a light bulb just went off for me. So kind of like how do you go about identifying what's an appropriate an appropriate coping skill for your child?
Well, and here's the thing, like when I work with adults, when I'm working with like the people in my membership, my Facebook group, I'm like, the sucky thing about building your executive function skills is not that you can't improve them. You absolutely can. These are all skills that you can work on and improve. The sucky part is the trial and error because it can feel so defeating, right? And the example that I always use is planners because kids get to middle school and every school tosses a planner at them and says, here, use this. So first of all, they all look the same because the school buys them in bulk. Second, nobody teaches them how to use it. Just use it. So that does not help. If this is not like something that happens by osmosis, especially if you're neurodivergent. And for most neurodivergent kids, that's not going to work. So after this being pounded into their heads for years and years and years, they get to me as a junior or senior or a college freshman, and I say the word planner, and they're like, oh no, I've tried it. They don't work for me. I can't use them. And I'm like, okay, no.
They're triggered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So triggered. I'm like, look, here's the deal. I'm not going to tell you what to use. I don't care what it looks like. You need to find the one that's going to work for you, the one that's going to make your brain happy, because then when you are actually using it, it's going to make a huge difference in your life. And so and I'll talk about what those different things could be. It could be like a paper planner, like I've got behind me. It could be your Google Calendar on your phone. It could be an index card. And it's one of those things. I always use my middle daughter as an example. She got through high school, AP classes and all, with a 3x5 index card folded in half, tucked in the pocket that she kept on her phone. Every week she would make a to-do list. And then that was her planning system to get through high school, was an index card tucked in the pocket of her phone. Could I have lived that way? No. I would look at that and I'm like, but don't you? No, it's working. I'm just going to leave it alone. Let it be.
And I love how you're so accepting of trial and error, because you mentioned just earlier that you had tried a few different, I don't want to say gigs, but, different things along the way. And so I think so often we feel like, oh, if I stepped outside the norm, I stepped outside the box of what you would define a 9 to 5 or that sort of thing, and I failed, thus I am a failure. The shame comes in, and there can be that fear of trying again. How did you kind of hype yourself up to say, that didn't work, but I'm not a failure. I'm going to try something else.
You know what? And that's where my bravery story comes in, is that all of a sudden it was that perfect timing of me seeing all these women getting diagnosed and Sadie saying, you need a blog, you need a blog, you need a blog. And I was like, oh, I have my audience. I know who I need to talk to. I know that I can write and I can use the knowledge and the skills that I've been using for these, teenagers and college clients and my own children. And I can put that in writing and then read it, because ADHDers like to listen, not read. And I can have that out there and make it accessible to these women, because when you get that diagnosis, like I said, you get that immediate relief of like, wow, that explains so much. But then what?
Where's the planner that's perfectly laid out? I love when you and I did our pre-call. I know this because I use the spiral bound discs. And I think I've gone through 7 different versions of planners in my life. And it kind of depends on my mood or my season or what layers of complexity are going on with the player. And so I loved when I saw that with you, and just that you're you printed your own pages to go in it.
Right. And for me, and that's one of the things I say, is that even when you find what you think is the perfect system, whether it's a planner or a routine or your time management or your task initiation routines, whatever you think, you're like, oh, this is it, it's working. And it will work for a good long time until it doesn't. And that's just the way life goes. There is no magic fix. And for me, every time in my life when I've been like, what? My life feels very chaotic. What? I don't forget things. How did I forget that? And then I realized, okay, well, I haven't been writing it in my planner. Well, okay, well, why haven't I been writing my planner? Well, my planner is no longer serving me. When my kids were little, my planner was literally just a big calendar on the side of the fridge, because I was keeping track of doctor's appointments and sports and things like that. And let's face it, I didn't have a life. I didn't have to keep track of anything because I had 3 kids. That was it. So that one, the monthly calendar was perfect. It was fine. When I started working, from home, then I needed like more of a weekly spread where I can kind of like group things like, okay, here's my job stuff and my kids stuff, and I can put it all in there. I still had the monthly spread so that I wouldn't forget like birthdays and anniversaries and things like parties, things like that were scheduled way far out. Dentist appointments, 6 months up. That needs a place, right? But then as I started to build my own business and I started to do more coaching, even like that's where that planner wasn't working. I needed to have like hourly time slots because my day changes. Every day of the week is a little bit different. What hours I'm working, what hours I'm doing, what job varies every single day. So now, like, I knew that I wasn't going to drop $40 for a planner that I'm going to look at and be like, kind of, sort of, but not exactly what I need. I'm like, I have a printer. I have a computer. So let me print my pages. So I created my planner. And so every year I just sit down and I print the pages and stick them in the little discs and we're all good. But I
I
don't think
like
it's going to
it.
last forever. It's probably going to change again at some point.
I was just going to say it's not static, and that was the biggest kind of takeaway I took from your story when we did our pre-call. Was I think so often we're trained that it's a you do this, basically life is like a math class. Like, okay,
Mhm.
you learn that this is the process, and then you execute it this way every single time. And if that's no longer serving us or working for us, society doesn't really give us permission
No, you just
to
suck it
make a
up and keep doing
change.
it.
Exactly. And I love that you gave yourself permission to make a change. And that to me was so brave. I couldn't wait for you to just, because even now I was trying to give myself permission, like, okay, we're doing spring break here in the US and everyone's going down to the pool. And I'm like, I don't really want to go down to the pool, but I couldn't give myself permission not to because everyone else is doing it. So it just, even in small ways, we can kind of get roped into what's socially expected or what's expected in a situation.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, when we talked and you're like, so what's your bravery story? I'm like, this is it. Like me starting a business to help women make it accessible, make it affordable for them to get the help that they need. Like that to me is because I am giving myself permission to be like, okay, you don't have to go and get a teaching job. You don't have to necessarily, go and get more clients because this not only is it a useful thing and like I didn't think of it being a brave thing until you asked me about it in all honesty. Because as women we don't ever view things that way, but it feels so right and so natural. Like I know, like when I'm writing that blog post, when I'm in my Facebook group and people are like, help, I don't know what to do about this. And even if I offer a suggestion, it might not even be my suggestion. They're like, oh, that's it. Because 15 other people are saying, but you try this. Oh, I've done this. I've done. And one of them, it's like building that community where other women can be like, oh, not only do I get it, but I've been there. And so here's some suggestions. And it feels so very right. And I think that's part of why I don't think about it as being like a brave thing because it feels so totally aligned with who I am now in my life.
You were brave to listen to yourself,
Oh,
which so
without a doubt.
often we don't do. We go, oh, well, society says I should get this, like not even to entertain the idea of even
Right.
asking ourselves what we want. Society dictates that this is the norm, thus I'm going to do this, I'm not going to question it. So to even have the bravery to step up and question it, that's a step. And then when you've had the quiet conversation with yourself and you realize that what you want, what's going to make your soul happy is not fitting in a social norm. Ooh, now what do I do? And
Right.
golly gee, what if I go down this road and I fail? Then
Yes.
really what do I do?
Yes. And that is and truly that has been kind of where I've been the last couple of years because it's having that idea that could I do this? Maybe. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try it. And truly, like when I started, it was no different than writing a book. Where it's like, can I do it? Let's see. So like before I joined Sadie's coaching program as a paid program, I stayed in that free group and I said, okay, I have my blog idea. I took her free course to learn how to set up my blog because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And then I'm like, if I can do 50 posts, if I can get 50 posts published, then I can take the next step. So it was like always about testing myself. Like, am I really going to be committed? Does this really feel right? Is this like where I belong? And yeah, by the end of 50 posts, you know whether or not you're in the right place.
Well, I like that you set a boundary because then, at least for me, I often struggle with am I throwing more good energy after bad energy?
Hmm.
Is this something, okay, there's a difference in giving up and letting go and all that, but knowing where you are and knowing, is it gonna, if I just try one more time, will I make the jump if I try one more time? And so I like how your story really resonated with me because it's very different from my story. I don't set out the boundary at the beginning. I arrive at the boundary when the boundary has arrived. Either I run out of time or money or energy, or there's some fuel source that has left the project that dictates it's over. I really liked how you put a boundary in before you started it. How did that concept come to you?
For me, it was, I think it comes from that mental block of you're not supposed to do something, like you're supposed to do the safe thing. And because safety and security is one of those fundamental things that are important to me, like to do something that is risky is like way outside my comfort zone. And I'm the kind of person who I stay well inside my comfort zone all the time. That's just who I am. I don't like to explore. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
running around to be adventurous. And so for me, it's like, okay, if I'm going to take that risk, if I'm going to do that scary thing, it has to be a calculated risk. And so I'm
Love
not going to
that.
jump all in and pour in, like if I didn't have my day jobs, I could do this so much faster. So I'll quit my day job and just do this like that. Like, no, because what if it doesn't work? So for me, it was like, can I do this? Can I set this goal for myself? Can I write 50? And when I'm done with those, when I get that far, I'll know, like, is this something I want to keep doing with? Is it worth investing more into?
Mm-hmm.
And because I like some of those other things that I kind of tried, it was, I dabbled in things and they were okay. And I might have had a little bit of fun, but it wasn't something that kind of like sparked in me like, this is right. Like, this is a good fit for me. And that's really where I am now with F-Bomb Coach because it is such a natural fit for who I am. It feeds that, the teacher side of me because I get to create courses. It clicks with the coach side of me because I'm working with women who need the help. So it really does fit who I am. Whereas before I didn't have that.
And I
So
kind of
that's
wanted
where it
you
comes
to,
from.
tell us about that because it sounds like you didn't just sit down and go, this is my business plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a restaurant. We're going to serve barbecue. And these are the 4 family recipes of barbecue we're going to serve. And these are our working hours. So how did F-Bomb, how did it arrive? How did it happen?
Wow. I owe everything truly to Sadie Smiley because I follow what she says to do. It's like, we have an ongoing joke in the group. It's like, if Sadie says do it, just do it. Even if it doesn't make sense, just do it because there's a reason for it and it will make sense. And so for me building my business, because I have had, I continue with my day jobs. So this is something like it's my extra side hustle, for lack of a better term, that people would get. So it is extra work, but I make it like I've built it piece by piece. Like once I master one part of it and I've got a smooth rhythm and I've got the routine built, then I add another layer. Then I add another layer. So I wrote for the first 9 months, all I did was write blog posts. And then like the piece I added on was to syndicate where I would push it out to like Newsbreak and Medium and Microsoft Start just to like get it out further. So for 9 months, pretty much that was it. Like, I think I also built my first course in that time, like my freebie course. And then it was like, Sadie's like, you need a Facebook group. I'm like, I hate Facebook. I hate social media. And she's like, okay, if you really hate it, I'm not gonna say you have to do it, but you should, because that's where your people are. I'm like, okay, I'll try. And so I started a group and literally was posting, talking to myself for pretty much months. Um, and that's one of those things that, she's like, just keep going. They will come. Just keep going. And I'm like, okay. And so I did. I just did what she told me to do. And I kept posting and then people started trickling in. And then Facebook started, recommending my group. And so like it grew steadily. So over the first 9 months of that Facebook group, I was up to like 250 people. I was pretty happy. It was all organic. It wasn't, it wasn't like all of my friends showing up. Like it was just people who did not really know me. And then, so I started building more courses and I did like a soft launch of my membership because I had like 3 or 4 courses at that point. And at that Black Friday, I did a soft launch of my membership. It wasn't big and splashy. I didn't spend money on ads. It was just like, here's a membership.
So with your courses, did you sit there and say, I need to have 6 courses by the end of the year in order for this to make sense? Or how did that happen?
I just knew that I wanted to have like three-ish courses. I think I think I had my free one plus 3 more courses, like 3 courses that like I have set up, like people could buy individually if they wanted to. But I knew going into it, like what would make sense for my people would be to like have a mini course on each of those individual executive function skills. Because depending on what you struggle with, you may not want to hear about organization right now. You may just want to hear about task initiation. And so I created like super small bite-sized courses where they can come in, they can understand what this skill is, what it looks like for neurotypical people, what it looks like for neurodivergent people, and like here's some quick strategies that you can try. Like, so it's a super short courses, but it's just kind of like to give them some of that foundational work that they don't have because someone just said, oh, look, you're ADHD, have at it. And they don't know, they hear the term executive function. They don't really know. They just know how they feel. They like that constant feeling of stress and chaos, but they don't have the knowledge to say exactly what it is. And I would say if you ask most, they would just say, oh, well, I can't manage my time. And they just call time management everything. And it really isn't. So I started with like that idea and I launched, and like my founding members at home, I was like, it's messy in here. I'm dropping resources for you and you have courses and we do coaching calls. So like they can come and get like help with, like see me face to face via Zoom, and I'll teach them more things. And I do extra presentations in the, for the membership. But part of being that founding member is that you're in there watching me build. So it's not like the smoothest process. And the perk of being a founding member is that you get a cheap price because I'm just throwing stuff at you.
Well, and that's brave. You're being vulnerable. I
Well,
mean, I
and
think
that's
so
it. Like,
often we don't want to show our pottery until it's done.
right.
And
And
you
that
shared it
was,
with your community.
well, because for me, I never wanted to come in like, I am the executive function guru and I have all of your answers, because that's not it. I do like it because it is so very much trial and error. It is experimentation. So it is a lot of me kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall for you. And then you're going to say, oh, but that one stuck for me and I like that one. And I think that you need to see that in action. And so for a little over a year, like I had my membership and I kept adding to it and we did our group coaching calls. But then as I had more people coming in, then they started to feel overwhelmed by my membership because they're like, okay, I just logged in and there's a lot of shit there. What do I do? And I'm like, I need to fix this. So then I took a step back and said, okay, so for the people who aren't okay with just kind of walking in and picking and choosing and saying, okay, I think I'm going to work on organization now. How do I, if I first walk in, what do I need? And I'm like, okay, so I need to give them a path. And so like this first quarter of this year, that was my mission, was to create a path. Do you have to stay on the path? No, you could, travel on extra paths all through the whole, membership if you want. But I've laid out a path and I'm still kind of building it, because as I've laid out the path, I'm like, there's some gaps. I'm going to be filling those gaps as we go through this year, but just to ease some of that confusion for members, so that like, that wasn't something that came to me. Could I have started my membership with that? I suppose, but I don't think it would have been as good. I don't think that if I waited to launch my membership until I had all this in place, I don't think it would be where it is, because I didn't know what I needed until I had people to really show me.
I was hoping that you would kind of go down that path, because I was just thinking when you mentioned, there's the bravery of throwing things on the wall, seeing what sticks. Ooh, for those people who are, vulnerability is a difficult thing for them, especially public vulnerability, and you're throwing something on the wall. How do you handle that? I hate to call it failure, but how do you handle that public failure? And then how do you kind of move on? I love the path you're going down.
Um, for me, and I do talk about this quite a bit on my blog and in the membership, because it's one of the things, and especially for my audience, because you're talking about women who have spent pretty much their entire lives being told that they're lazy or they're stupid or they're broken. And many are very good at like masking, and they they can be highly successful and make it look like they are totally normal, quote unquote normal, but inside they are dying. They are burning out. They're juggling so much to try and keep on that perfect face that it's horrible. And in addressing that and being able to say, so what happens if you decide that, no, you know what, adding PTA mom or PTO mom onto your list of things is not a good idea, and you say no? Does that make you a bad mother?
Oh, is that okay? Is that okay? Are
And
we allowed to make
right,
those kind of
and do you
decisions?
really care, that person who's looking at you going, oh, she's not that good? Do you care? Do you really care what they think? Really, really? And for some people, the answer is yes. Like, yes, but I'm like, but what? That people pleasing part, and is there. And it's like, you need to be able to, put yourself first. Not all the time. We know that, especially if you're a mom, but sometimes you need to make that choice, and you need to be okay with screwing something up and not getting it right. And you know what? I tried it and it sucked and it was a horrible mess. But you know what? You learned what didn't work. And I think that for women who are mothers, the easiest way that I have to get them kind of over that hurdle is to look at them and say, if someone talked to your child the way you were talking to yourself, what would your reaction be?
Wow, you'd probably punch him in the face. Uh,
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like Mama Bear comes out, and
yeah.
we will do, like, you are not going to treat my child that way. No, my child is not stupid. My child is different. But you never want to give yourself that same grace. And I'm not saying you should go, someone's going to do that to you, go punch them in the face, but you should definitely have that self-talk that says, no,
Love
they do not
that.
matter. It's,
I
it,
love that.
it,
And
it
I
is,
love how
it is a
you've
big lesson.
absolutely, I think that really kind of encompasses just overall the concept of a superwoman. Like we are expected to be all of these things
hmm
and talk to ourselves horribly. So I'm so glad that you bring that up.
Well, because we are expected to do it all and be all things to all people. And I mean, there are a whole lot of reasons for why that is, and we won't get into then. We won't get into that. But and I think that for my generation, for sure, Gen X people, I think that we were sold an extra giant package of BS lies, because we grew up watching those commercials of, I'm a
Hmm.
woman and I can have it all, and look at my corporate job and the baby on my hip and the dinner on the stove,
Hmm.
and I can do it all. And we have been so trained to believe that we should be able to do all of the things and do them all well all the
Hmm.
time, that we never got to see the messy people, you know?
I love that.
And I think that we need to be able to see that. So yes, I am not afraid to, like, start my membership and have it be messy and then have people, but I'm confused. Okay, well, let me fix that.
Like, thanks for bringing that up.
Right,
Let me
exactly.
work on that.
Um, and furthermore, when you are raising your children, if your children only see you as always having things together, that you don't ever make mistakes, what kind of expectations are you setting up for them?
Wow.
Unspoken. You may never look at your
Wow.
kid and say, oh, I only expect you to get straight A's. You may never say that to them. But if they only see you doing everything perfectly all the time, they're going to internalize that no different than if you were raised in a household where you were told, because you have a hard time getting started on tasks or you procrastinate, that must mean that you're lazy. You've probably spent the last 30 years then trying to prove them wrong. No, I'm not really lazy. So you do 50 gazillion things to prove that you're not lazy. So it's a lot of those unspoken things. And if you want that to be different, again, I know you wouldn't treat your child the way you were treated if you were treated poorly, right? You want to be that support system for your kid. But a lot of times that unspoken part, if they don't ever see you screw up and fail spectacularly, how do they know it's okay to do that?
I love that you bring that up because I mean it's not abuse, and there are so many people who truly are abused. I don't want to go that
Right.
far, but it is now that you mention it, we're repeating the cycle,
Hmm.
just like abuse, where it was taught to us that this is how we have to be. We have to be perfect in every aspect of our lives, and so then by trying to achieve that, that's what we're teaching our children
Yes.
versus how to fail fabulously. And I love that you kind of give such a very real and easy roadmap how to do that without looking and feeling like an idiot. So I think that's
Right.
people's concerns.
Right. And I would say that if you look at the way you talk to your kid, if your kid, if the directions on their homework said, color all of the eights blue and they picked up the green crayon and they did it, would you be like, oh, that was a dumb mistake? You're like, you know what? Green's pretty cool. Maybe there's a way
Exactly.
we could fix that. How do we make this green look more blue? What can we do?
Hmm.
Right? You're teaching them how to address mistakes rather than just beating them up for it, because you wouldn't do that. Don't do it to yourself. That's all I'm saying.
I love that perspective, and that is just it seems so big. And that's the thing. The best thing they say the best things in life are free. The best things in life are simple and basic,
Hmm.
and that is so simple and basic that yes, I will treat myself in ways I would not treat my daughter,
Right.
or allow someone to treat my daughter or my dog or anything.
Right.
And so I like that. Just I like normalizing it, talking about it, so that because it's like all things, I think it just kind of flows in the undercurrent. And unless it's on the back of a bathroom stall and sheets for you to read while you're in there, don't talk to yourself how you wouldn't talk to yourself, your kid's girlfriend. We don't make pause in our life for it. We don't, it's not something we talk about. So with that, I don't want to take your whole day because I know you have so many things. But where can people find you? How can they work with FBOM? How can they make you a part of their life moving forward?
So you can go to my website, which is fbombcoach.com, but it's EF as an executive function. But it is a play on words because I was really
Love it.
good for this whole hour we're talking and I did not drop one F bomb. Pat on the back for
I,
me.
I was ready for it. I was like, we got this. Like we're gonna roll with it.
Yeah, sometimes I get into teacher mode and I'm okay with it, but other times it comes out. So that is a play on words. So it's efbombcoach.com. That's my blog. It's got, that is absolutely free. Read to your heart's content or listen because I do read all the blog posts. And then from there you can, there's the tabs for looking at my courses, looking at my membership. And then if you are a woman, you can join my Facebook group, which is Executive Function Support for Women. And you can just do that. You see it on my website too. Like I have all the links there, but yes, that would be the way to go. And if you're a man, I'm sorry, you're not invited to the Facebook group. I don't hate men, but it is a safe place for women only.
They can make their own playground.
Right.
We're not saying they can't have a playground. They just can't have our playground.
Right.
That's it.
Exactly.
I love it. I was so excited to do this chat today because I try to be someone that embraces failure. I try as an entrepreneur. I failed. Our business is not what it is today. It is today, not what we started out making it. And so there was a lot of failure along the way. And I know I'm not special because my mom tells me all the time I'm not special. Other people live the same life I live. And so it was just so refreshing to meet you and to hear your story and how you can just fail, brush it off, keep going, whatever. I didn't lose a limb. The world didn't stop turning. Like it's fine.
Right.
But so often as a society, I think we truly think that alligators are going to fly out of our oven if we don't do something correct that day. So I just love the way that you normalize this and that you have the courses to give people tools to kind of support their journey with it. And I was so happy to have you share your
I
story.
am very glad that you invited me to be here. It's been a good talk.
Wonderful. All right. So before we leave, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with about your stories? Or let's say that they're in their kitchen. They've got 4 kids under the age of 4. I think that's mathematically possible.
Yes.
And they're all screaming and they've tried 4 different businesses. What would you leave her with to say, like, keep going?
So the first thing I'm going to say is number one, you got this. It may not feel like it in the moment, but you do. Second thing is no matter what anybody says, you are not lazy, stupid, or broken. Like that is my clear message across the board. I say it all the time. And then the third thing is when it's right, you'll feel it.
You are not lazy, stupid, or broken. Wow. I think we need to there needs to be like a telephone tree where we just call each other every morning and be like, you are not
Yep.
lazy, stupid, or broken.
Because I think that so many women have grown up just internalizing that and always fighting against it, and that's where a lot of the masking and I'm going to be perfect comes from,
Hmm.
because they feel like that's who they are because their brains are different. And ooh, it really makes me mad. See, I controlled the potty mouth there.
F bomb. We'll just drop it in. F bomb right there.
Yes. Yes. But so, like, learning to break that within yourself, to let go of other people's thoughts and expectations, and to own who you are. And to love who you are, because I don't, what one person calls broken, I call brilliant. And truly, it's all good.
I love this. Well, I have loved your very fresh, real world, honest and raw talk about just stuff that I think we all do. We all think about and just putting it out there in the open. And I love your takeaways today. So we'll put all your contact info in the show notes. Y'all can connect with our friend and talk about F bombs or no F bombs or how to do this, that, and the other. But I am just so glad to have just these conversations so that you know you're not alone with things.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.